You know that feeling. That heavy pressure in your chest before you even open your eyes in the morning. The same storm waiting inside your head. Thoughts rush in fast. You are failing. You are falling behind. You are not enough. You tell yourself it is just a phase. You pretend everything is fine. But deep inside something is burning. Here is the truth most people never say out loud. Most people are not truly living. They are reacting. Reacting to fear. Choking on anxiety. Carrying anger they do not understand. From a young age, we are taught to fight our emotions. Push them down. Act strong while quietly falling apart. But what if that is the real problem? What if everything you were told about managing your mind is backward? At Stoicism Breath, we believe the Stoics never taught us to escape emotion. They taught us to face it with clarity, to strip away illusion, to stop confusing thoughts with truth. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Yet every day we try to fix the external world while letting our inner world decay. This video is not here to comfort you. It is here to challenge you. Because until you face what controls you, you will never be free. If you are ready to stop living in reaction and start living with purpose, subscribe to Stoicism Breath. Do it for the version of you that refuses to be ruled by chaos. This is your first step toward reclaiming inner peace. Let us begin. Fear does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it is quiet. It does not roar. It hums in the background. It disguises itself as being careful or thinking things through. It slowly makes a home inside your decisions. It shapes what you say, what you tolerate, and what you silently walk away from. It convinces you that silence is safer than speaking, that waiting is wiser than trying, that avoiding is better than failing. So you do not make the call. You avoid the conversation. You never take the first step. You hesitate just long enough for opportunities to fade, for connections to slip away, for dreams to collect dust. And all the while, fear whispers that it is protecting you from pain, embarrassment, and disappointment. But the truth is, fear is protecting you from becoming who you are meant to be. Over time, you stop needing a reason to say no. It becomes automatic. You start calling it your personality. But that is not who you are. That is who fear has trained you to be. The tragedy is that most people do not realize this until years have passed. Until regret replaces hope. They look back and wonder how their life became so small, so repetitive, so painfully safe. Fear is clever. It never calls itself fear. It says you are just not ready. It says let us wait for the right moment. But the right moment never comes, because fear makes sure of it. Slowly, you begin to measure your life by what you preserved instead of what you experienced. You protect your pride, your image, your comfort. But you lose momentum, depth, and joy. Fear does not just steal action. It steals aliveness. That spark that only comes from doing the things that make your heart race, your stomach flutter, your mind expand. Fear will offer you a quiet life. And if you are not careful, you will accept that offer and call it peace. But it is not peace. It is paralysis. The shift does not begin by pretending fear is not there. It begins the moment you admit it is. The moment you look it in the eye and ask yourself, what are you really trying to protect me from? That question breaks the spell. Because most fear is not about real danger. It is about perceived threat. And that threat is almost always emotional. Fear of rejection. Fear of looking foolish. Fear of being misunderstood. But none of those things will actually break you. What breaks people is the quiet ache of a life unlived, the heavy weight of wondering what might have been. Fear never warns you about that. It does not tell you that avoiding failure also means avoiding growth. It does not tell you that protecting your image may cost you your authenticity. It does not tell you that by trying to avoid disappointment, you slowly and silently disappoint yourself again and again. And that is why mastering your inner world matters. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Now. Because your life is happening right now. And every moment you let fear decide for you is a moment you do not get back. Here at Stoicism Breath, we remind you of one simple truth. You are not here to live small. You are here to grow, to experience, to become. And that journey begins the moment you stop letting fear choose for you. Fear is not the villain. It is not even the enemy. Fear is a messenger. And when you stop running from it, when you finally slow down and listen, it often has something important to tell you. But listening does not mean obeying. It means understanding. There is a difference. You can feel fear and still move forward. You can carry it with you without letting it lead your life. At Stoicism Breath, we remind ourselves of this simple truth. If you do not master yourself, something else will. And when fear goes unchecked, it becomes that master. It starts writing your story. It sets your limits. It decides what feels possible. Over time, you begin to believe that life is supposed to feel heavy, careful, tense. But that is not life. That is what happens when fear becomes your default setting. You do not need to erase fear. You need to change your relationship with it. You need to recognize when it is speaking and learn to separate its voice from your own. You are not the fear. You are the one hearing it. And that small space between the feeling and your response is where your power lives. That is the space where you can observe, pause, and choose. The more you practice this, the larger that space becomes. Everything changes the moment you stop labeling fear as weakness and start seeing it as a teacher. Every fear, no matter how loud or subtle, points to something meaningful, something you care about, something you have not healed yet, or something you are meant to grow into. Growth almost always feels like fear at first. That is how you know you are standing at the edge of something real. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is what happens when you act anyway. And no, it will not feel comfortable at the beginning. It may feel terrifying. But beneath that discomfort is energy, motion, possibility. You will never outrun fear. But you can stop running from it. You can turn and face it. And when you do, it often becomes smaller than you imagined. Less powerful. Less permanent. Many times you realize the thing you feared was never truly real. It was a story. A projection. A shadow on the wall. When you stop resisting fear and meet it with presence, asking what it is trying to teach you, something powerful happens. You reclaim your strength. You stop living under its rule. You begin to feel movement again. And from movement comes momentum. This is how freedom begins. Not with a dramatic leap, but with a quiet moment of honesty. The kind where you say, I am afraid, but I am moving anyway. Your life is too valuable to be ruled by shadows. And the only way to live fully is to stop letting fear make your choices. Now let us talk about anger. Most of us were taught there are only two ways to deal with anger: explode or suppress. Say something you regret, or say nothing and regret it anyway. But both paths keep you trapped because both come from the same place: disconnection. Anger is not weakness. Anger is a message. It is your inner signal saying something is not okay. A boundary has been crossed. A value has been violated. But if you never slow down long enough to hear what anger is trying to tell you, it transforms into something darker. Resentment, bitterness, passive aggression, eventually exhaustion. Science shows that chronic suppressed anger increases stress hormones like cortisol, weakens your immune system, and raises the risk of heart disease. Your body keeps the score, even when your mind pretends everything is fine. Most people walk around carrying silent anger. Anger they do not even realize they are holding. Anger that started years ago, but never found its way out. It hides in how you overreact to small things, in how you distrust people without knowing why, in how your chest tightens when you think about a certain person or memory. And because we were never taught to examine it, we normalize it. We call it personality. We say, I just have a short fuse. Or that is just how I am. But that is not who you are. That is what you have not released. Or more importantly, what you have not understood. Anger, when left unchecked, often hurts us more than the original wound. Not because anger is bad, but because it is powerful. And anything powerful that is not understood becomes dangerous. You do not need to fear your anger. You need to get curious about it. Ask yourself, what part of me is hurting right now? What expectation was broken? What fear is hiding underneath this fire? At its core, anger is pain that is not found a voice. It is vulnerability wearing armor to survive. But armor does not just protect. It isolates. And when you live armored, you lose connection, not only with others, but with yourself. So what does it look like to handle anger differently? It looks like pausing. Not because you are weak, but because you are strong enough to hold the emotion without letting it control you. It looks like breathing before speaking, feeling before reacting, listening to your body instead of letting old patterns take over. This is the practice we teach at Stoicism Breath. Real strength is not loud. It is steady. It is the ability to feel deeply and respond wisely. And that is a skill you can build one moment at a time. Your fear, your anger, they are not your enemies. They are guides. And when you learn to listen without surrendering, you step into a quieter, stronger version of yourself. But real strength looks like this. It looks like holding the fire without throwing it at someone else. It looks like allowing the feeling to rise without letting it take control. It means not sending that emotional message right away, not raising your voice, not reacting until you have asked yourself deeper questions. And sometimes it means sitting in discomfort long enough for clarity to arrive. Because anger always has a story. And when you truly listen to that story, it often transforms. What starts as anger becomes clarity, sometimes sadness, sometimes grief, sometimes even compassion. That does not mean you excuse what happened. It simply means you stop letting it live rent-free in your body. At Stoicism Breath, we teach that there is a quiet power in people who feel deeply but respond wisely. The kind of people who can walk away instead of explode. Who can speak truth without cruelty. Who can hold tension without passing it on to everyone around them. That is not weakness. That is mastery. And mastery is built moment by moment, breath by breath, in the pause between trigger and reaction. That pause is everything. It is the space where choice is born. The space where you stop being controlled by emotion and start leading it. Here is something powerful to reflect on. Everything that irritates you about others often points back to something unresolved inside you. That is the invitation anger gives you. Not just to blame, but to see, to look inward, to uncover the part of you that still hurts, that still longs, that still remembers. The more honest you are with that part of yourself, the less power anger has over you, and the more power you gain to respond with depth instead of impulse. You will not always get it right. Sometimes the fire will still win. But every time you pause instead of explode, every time you question instead of assume, every time you choose understanding over reaction, you build something rare. Emotional discipline. And with it comes a different kind of freedom. The kind that does not depend on the world behaving perfectly for you to feel at peace. The kind that allows you to feel the flame without being consumed by it. Now let us talk about anxiety. Anxiety is quiet, but persuasive. It does not scream. It whispers just loudly enough to make you doubt yourself. It pretends to help. It offers you a false sense of control. It wraps itself in logic, caution, and responsibility. It says things like just think it through one more time. Prepare for the worst, just in case. And it sounds like you. That is what makes it so powerful. It does not feel like an outside voice. It feels like reason. But beneath that calm tone is fear. Fear of uncertainty. Fear of loss. Fear of judgment. Fear of falling apart. Anxiety convinces you that by obsessing over every possibility, you are staying ahead. But in reality, you are running in circles. You are exhausting yourself. You are rehearsing pain that does not exist. It often starts small. A forgotten task. A strange look from someone. An upcoming deadline. Then suddenly your heart is racing. Your mind is buzzing. And you are miles away from the present moment. You replay imaginary conversations. You anticipate failures. You build worst-case futures in your head. All while the real moment, the only moment you actually have, slips quietly by. You are not solving anything. You are bracing for something vague. Something terrible. Something you cannot even clearly define. But you can feel it. And because you can feel it, you assume it must be real. That is the trap. Feelings are not facts. They are experiences, not evidence. And anxiety is one of the most convincing feelings we have. Anxiety steals this moment from you. It steals your presence. It steals your clarity. It steals your sense of control. And the hardest part is that you often let it, believing it is protecting you. But it is not. It is teaching you to live as if every thought deserves attention, as if every worry is a warning. But most worries are not warnings. They are echoes, old patterns, familiar fears, thoughts you have repeated so many times they start to feel like truth. But if you look closely, they are just thoughts, not predictions, not commands, just mental noise. Here is the shift. You do not have to argue with every anxious thought. You do not have to dismantle every possibility. You simply have to come back. Come back to your breath. Come back to the ground beneath your feet. Come back to what is right in front of you. That is how you reclaim peace. Not by fixing the future, but by anchoring yourself in the now. Because now is where your life is happening. Now is where your power lives. And the more often you return to this moment, the weaker anxiety becomes. Anxiety wants you to believe that the more you think, the more prepared you are. But the truth is, the more you think, the more you delay living. The mind is a beautiful servant, but a dangerous master. And when you let anxiety lead, it does not move you forward. It traps you in loops. You relive the same fears in 1,000 different forms, none of which bring clarity or peace. Peace does not come from having all the answers. Peace comes from learning to live without needing all the answers.